Europe's had basically a lost generation because they don't really have a tech community with the amount of regulation that the EU has created. What you're now doing is you're hurting the tech unicorns, the tech startups that need to also comply with these laws. It's a great premise. Hey, we need to have our own tech community in Europe. Yeah, you're right. There's an article here in the New York Times about Europe is overrun by foreign tech giants and wants to grow its own. Okay, we've spoken on the show before about how Chinese tech protectionism has absolutely helped China nurture a very strong and vibrant tech community. 6 of the 10 largest tech companies in the world are Chinese. They have a number of large tech platform monopoly businesses, and there's a number of unicorn companies. We cover Chinese tech companies a lot. And by China basically not allowing US or really any foreign tech companies at all to enter the Chinese market, or if they do, they have to have forced technology transfer and all these things. Anyway, they basically prevented any of that stuff from coming in, and they created an environment for Chinese tech startups to go and fill that void, fill that vacuum themselves. And now when those companies get big or go public or those founders get rich, now they invest back in other startups. Now you have VC firms and you get the whole cycle compounding upon itself to have a very strong, robust tech community in China. We've spoken about in Europe, where Europe's had basically a lost generation because they don't really have a tech community, and all the US tech companies went into Europe and have just, kind of been running the show. You have some small examples, right? Like European platform companies in Plaid comprise less than 10% of all the companies in Plaid. Chinese platform companies are probably around 20%. So, and it would be more if they had the right ADR status, the right reciprocity status with US exchanges, but they don't, because we can't see their data to really validate if they are a platform or not. But most likely some of these would be, but they don't share enough information for us to concretely say it is. So anyway, the EU is trying to think about how do they do this and these kinds of things. Obviously, tech protectionism is something that we've seen work, but on the other side of this, with the amount of regulation that the EU has created, we've spoken about GDPR, for example, as helping large tech monopolies like Google and Facebook and hurting basically everyone else. The everyone else bucket includes, we've spoken about British Airways and Marriott getting huge fines. Basically, British Airways and Marriott paid bigger fines on GDPR than any of the tech monopolies did. GDPR, these different tech regulation that the EU puts into place, they apply to all of the tech startups in Europe. And this is the problem. This is what we've said on the show is tech regulation should really just be focused on the large tech monopolies, the large platform conglomerates. And it needs to be company by company, right? These companies are so big and so different. You can't have one law that just magically fixes the whole situation. You need to have company by company, very targeted, specific regulation. And if you don't do that and you just create these ever expansive laws, what you're now doing is you're hurting the tech unicorns, the tech startups that need to also comply with these laws. Because once you're a large tech monopoly, you have the money and the resources to comply with the laws better than everyone else, as we've seen with GDPR. Unless you're the EU and you want to claw back provisions and carve-outs and fundamentally rethink how you go about regulating big tech, I don't see any way for them to deliver on this. It's a great premise. Hey, we need to have our own tech community in Europe. Yeah, you're right. But how do you do that is the other story. And I don't think that they're going to be able to go back and say, hey, let's look at things like GDPR. Let's look at all these other laws that we've passed over the past handful of years and now exempt European tech startups from these laws. That would be step number one. Before you start passing new stuff, just fix this stuff you've already passed, which is doing a lot of harm to any tech companies trying to operate in the region. So if you've now created something that harms tech companies from operating, If you take away that harm from your European tech startups, okay, well, that's net a positive. Kind of wonky way to think about it and wonky way to get there. But hey, that could be the European way. Just regulate the hell out of everyone and just exempt the European tech startups. Okay, magic. I doubt they'll take my advice on that one. Hi, this is Alex from Winner Take All. Thanks for joining us. Hope you enjoyed the content. Feel free to leave a comment, ask us questions, and definitely make sure to join us on our next live stream.